A stranger came to my door and thanked me for raising his father. I stared at him, confused. I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong house. I never raised anyone's father. He smiled, a sad, knowing smile. Yes, you did. You raised my father, Thomas Mitchell, from the time he was 8 years old until he was 18. You were his foster mother. Thomas Mitchell. The name hit me like a freight train. I hadn't heard that name in 43 years. Thomas, I whispered. How is he? Where is he? The stranger's smile faded. He died 3 weeks ago, cancer. But before he died, he told me to find you. He told me to thank you. He said you saved his life. What this stranger didn't know, what Thomas apparently never told him, was that I didn't just raise Thomas for 10 years. I kept a secret about him, a secret so devastating, so dangerous, that revealing it could have destroyed multiple families. And now, 43 years later, this stranger was standing on my doorstep about to uncover a truth that would change everything he thought he knew about his father. My name is Dorothy Hayes. I'm 79 years old, and what I'm about to tell you is a story about sacrifice, secrets, and the impossible choices we make for the children we love. Before I tell you what happened when that stranger came to my door, you need to understand who I was 43 years ago, because the woman I am now is very different from the woman I was then. In 1981, I was 36 years old. I'd been foster mother for 8 years. My husband, Robert, and I had fostered 23 children during that time. Some stayed for a few weeks, some stayed for months, a few stayed for years. We never had biological children of our own. We tried for years, but it never happened. So we became foster parents. We opened our home to children who had nowhere else to go, children who'd been abused, neglected, abandoned. It wasn't easy. Foster care never is. The children came to us traumatized, angry, scared. They'd been through things no child should ever experience. And we did our best to give them stability, love, safety. Some of them thrived, some of them struggled, some of them broke our hearts when they left. But we kept doing it because someone had to, because these children deserved a chance. Robert and I lived in a modest 3-bedroom house in a suburb of Cleveland. Robert worked as an electrician. I worked part-time as a school secretary. We weren't wealthy, but we were comfortable. We had enough to share. We could take up to 3 foster children at a time. Sometimes we had 1, sometimes we had 3. The house was always full of noise and chaos and life. I loved it. I loved being needed. I loved giving children a safe place to land. I loved watching them heal, even if it was just a little bit. And then, in August of 1981, Thomas Mitchell came into our lives. Thomas was 8 years old when he was placed with us, small for his age, skinny, dark hair that was too long, eyes that were too old for his face. The social worker, a woman named Linda, brought him to our house on a Tuesday afternoon. This is Thomas. He's been through a lot. His mother died 6 months ago, drug overdose. His father is unknown. He's been in 3 different foster homes in the past 6 months. None of them worked out. Why not? I asked. Linda lowered her voice. Behavioral issues. He's aggressive. He doesn't follow rules. He runs away. The last family said they couldn't handle him anymore. I looked at Thomas. He was standing in our living room clutching a garbage bag that contained all his possessions. He wasn't looking at us. He was staring at the floor. "Thomas," I said gently, "would you like to see your room?" He didn't respond. "Thomas, Mrs. Hayes asked you a question," Linda prompted. Still nothing. I knelt down so I was at his eye level. "Thomas, I know you're scared. I know you've been through a lot, but you're safe here. No one is going to hurt you. Would you like to see where you'll be sleeping?" He finally looked at me, and what I saw in his eyes broke my heart. Not anger, not defiance, just
emptiness, like he'd already given up on everything. "Okay," he whispered. I showed him to the bedroom. It was small but clean. A twin bed, a dresser, a desk, a window that looked out onto the backyard. "This is your room. You can decorate it however you'd like. We can get posters or paint the walls or whatever you'd like." Thomas set his garbage bag on the bed. "How long do I have to stay here?" "I don't know. As long as you need to." The last lady said that too. Then she sent me away after 2 weeks. "I'm not going to send you away, Thomas. Everyone sends me away." "I won't. I promise." He looked at me with those empty eyes. Everyone promises. Everyone lies. The first 2 weeks with Thomas were hell. He didn't talk, he didn't eat, he didn't sleep. He just sat in his room staring at nothing. When we tried to engage him, he ignored us. When we tried to set boundaries, he exploded, screaming, throwing things, running away. Twice in the first week, we got calls from neighbors saying Thomas was in their yard. Once we found him 3 blocks away, sitting on a curb crying, "I want my mom. I want my mom." "I know, sweetheart, I know. She's dead, and she's never coming back." "I'm so sorry, Thomas." "It's my fault. I killed her." I froze. "What do you mean?" "I killed her. It's my fault she's dead." "Thomas, your mother died from a drug overdose. That wasn't your fault." "Yes, it was. I made her sad. I made her use drugs. I killed her." He was 8 years old, and he was carrying the weight of his mother's death, blaming himself for something that was never his responsibility. I held him while he cried, and I made a decision. I was going to help this child, no matter what it took, no matter how hard it was. I was going to save him. I'm standing at my front door staring at this stranger who says he's Thomas's son. He's in his early 40s, tall, with dark hair and kind eyes. He looks like Thomas, or at least like the Thomas I remember. "I'm sorry, this is a lot to process. Thomas died?" 3 weeks ago. I'm sorry to just show up like this, but Dad was very specific. He said I had to find you. He said I had to thank you in person. Come in, please." The stranger, I still don't know his name, follows me into my living room, the same living room where Thomas stood 43 years ago, clutching a garbage bag. "I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name." Daniel Mitchell. I'm Thomas's son." "It's nice to meet you, Daniel. I'm Dorothy, but I suppose you already know that." "Thomas talked about you all the time. He said you were the only person who really loved him, the only person who never gave up on him." I feel tears forming. "Thomas said that?" "All the time. He said you saved his life, that if it wasn't for you, he wouldn't have survived." "I don't know about that. Thomas saved himself. I just gave him a place to do it." "That's not how he told it. He said you fought for him, that you never stopped fighting even when everyone else wanted to give up." "I did fight for him. He was worth fighting for." Daniel reaches into his bag and pulls out a thick envelope. "Dad left this for you. He wrote it in the hospital during his last few weeks. He wanted you to have it." I take the envelope with shaking hands. My name is written on the front in handwriting I don't recognize. Thomas's handwriting, I assume. I never saw him write as an adult. "There's something else," Daniel says. "Something Dad wanted me to tell you. Something he never told anyone." "What is it?" "He said to tell you that he knows, that he's always known, and that he forgives you." My blood runs cold. "Knows what?" "He didn't tell me. He just said you'd understand." "Do you?" "I do understand. And the fact that Thomas knew, that he's always known, changes everything." Let me take you back to October 1981. Thomas had been with us for 2 months. He was starting to open up, starting to trust us, starting to heal. And then his father showed up. I was making dinner when the doorbell rang. Robert answered it. I heard voices, Robert's and another man's, angry and aggressive. I went to the door. A man was standing there, mid-30s, unshaven, wearing dirty clothes. He smelled like alcohol. "I'm here for my son," he said. "I'm here for Thomas." "Who are you?" Robert asked. "I'm his father, Frank Mitchell, and I want my son back." My heart sank. Thomas's file said his father was unknown. There was no record of a Frank Mitchell.
"I'm sorry, but Thomas is in state custody," I said. "You can't just take him." "He's my son. I have a right to see him." "If you're his father, you need to go through the proper channels. You need to contact social services." "I don't need to contact anyone. He's my kid." Thomas appeared at the top of the stairs. When he saw Frank, his face went white. "Tommy," Frank called out. "Come here, son. Daddy's here to take you home." Thomas didn't move. He just stood there, frozen. "Thomas, go to your room," I said quietly. "Tommy, I said come here." Frank's voice was louder now, threatening. Thomas turned and ran to his room. We heard the door slam. "You can't keep him from me," Frank said. "I'm his father." "And I'm his foster mother, and right now I have legal custody. If you want to see Thomas, you need to go through social services. Until then, you need to leave." Frank's expression turned ugly. "This isn't over. I'm getting my son back, and there's nothing you can do to stop me." He left, but I knew he'd be back. I called Linda, the social worker, immediately. "A man named Frank Mitchell just showed up at our house claiming to be Thomas's father." "That's impossible. Thomas's father is listed as unknown." "Well, someone needs to tell Frank Mitchell that. He was here. He was drunk, he was aggressive, and Thomas was terrified of him." "I'll look into it. In the meantime, if he shows up again, call the police." Linda called back 2 hours later. "I found Frank Mitchell in the system. He's Thomas's biological father. But Dorothy, his record it's bad. Multiple arrests for domestic violence, drug possession, child endangerment. He lost custody of Thomas when Thomas was 4 years old. The mother had a restraining order against him." "So why is he showing up now?" "I don't know, but I'm going to file an emergency motion to keep him away from Thomas. In the meantime, be careful. Men like Frank Mitchell don't give up easily." She was right. Frank didn't give up. He showed up at our house 3 more times over the next 2 weeks. Each time we called the police. Each time they escorted him away. Each time he threatened us. "You can't keep my son from me. I'll get him back, one way or another." Thomas was a mess. He stopped eating again, stopped sleeping, started having nightmares. "He's going to take me," Thomas said one night. "He's going to take me and hurt me." "No one is going to hurt you, Thomas, I promise." "You can't stop him. No one can stop him." "The courts will stop him. We have a restraining order. He's not allowed near you." "He doesn't care about restraining orders. He doesn't care about anything." "Thomas, what did Frank do to you when you were little?" Thomas was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Bad things, really bad things." "What kind of bad things?" "I don't want to talk about it." "Thomas, if Frank hurt you, you need to tell someone. You need to tell me or Linda or the police." "It doesn't matter. No one will believe me. No one ever believes kids." "I believe you." He looked at me with those old, tired eyes. "Do you?" "Yes, I believe you, and I'm going to protect you no matter what." 3 weeks later, we had a court hearing. Frank was petitioning for custody of Thomas. The state was fighting to keep Thomas in foster care. Robert and I attended the hearing. So did Linda. So did Frank, with a court-appointed lawyer. The judge listened to both sides. Frank's lawyer argued that he was Thomas's biological father and had a right to raise his son, that he'd made mistakes in the past but had turned his life around, that he was sober now and had a job and an apartment. Linda argued that Frank had a history of violence and abuse, that Thomas was terrified of him, that returning Thomas to Frank's custody would be dangerous. The judge asked to speak to Thomas privately. Thomas was brought into the judge's chambers. He was in there for 20 minutes. When he came out, he looked like he'd been crying. The judge made his ruling. I'm granting temporary custody to Frank Mitchell. Thomas will be returned to his father's care with supervised visitation for the first 3 months. After that, we'll reassess. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Your Honor, please. Thomas is terrified of his father. Sending him back is dangerous. Mrs. Hayes, I understand your concern, but Frank Mitchell is Thomas's biological father. He has rights, and there's no concrete evidence of abuse, just allegations. Thomas told me Frank hurt him. Children say a lot of things, Mrs. Hayes. That doesn't make them true. I wanted to scream. I wanted to grab Thomas and run, but I couldn't. The law was on Frank's side. Thomas was removed from our home the next day. He cried. He begged us not to let them take him. He said Frank would hurt him, but there was nothing we could do. As they led him away, Thomas looked back at me. You promised, he said. You promised you wouldn't send me away. I'm not sending you away, Thomas. They're making me, but I'm going to get you back. I promise. Everyone promises. Everyone lies. Those were the last words he said to me before they took him. For 3 weeks, I heard nothing. I called Linda every day. She said Thomas was with Frank, that the supervised visits were going well, that there were no signs of abuse. But I didn't believe it. I knew something was wrong. And then, at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday, our phone rang. It was the hospital. Thomas had been admitted. He was in critical condition. Robert and I rushed to the hospital. When we got there, Linda was already there. So were the police. What happened? I asked. Linda's face was pale. Frank beat him badly. Thomas has a fractured skull, broken ribs, internal bleeding. He's in surgery now. Oh, my God! A neighbor heard screaming and called the police. When they arrived, Frank was drunk. Thomas was unconscious on the floor. Frank's been arrested. Is Thomas going to be okay? We don't know. The doctors are doing everything they can. We waited for 6 hours. Finally, a doctor came out. Thomas is stable. He's going to survive, but he has a long recovery ahead of him. Can we see him? He's sedated right now, but yes, you can see him. We went into Thomas's room. He looked so small in that hospital bed. His face was bruised and swollen. His head was bandaged. Tubes and wires were everywhere. I sat next to him and held his hand. I'm so sorry, Thomas. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you. He didn't respond. He was unconscious. But I made a promise to him that night, a promise I intended to keep. I was never going to let anyone hurt him again. Frank Mitchell was charged with aggravated assault and child endangerment. He was looking at 10 to 15 years in prison. But there was a problem. The prosecutor said they needed Thomas to testify. They needed him to tell the court what Frank had done. Thomas refused. I can't, he said. If I testify, he'll kill me. When he gets out of prison, he'll find me and kill me. Thomas, he's going to be in prison for a long time, I said. It doesn't matter. He'll get out eventually, and when he does, he'll come for me. We'll protect you. You can't protect me. No one can. The prosecutor was frustrated. Without Thomas's testimony, the case was weaker. Frank might get a reduced sentence. He might be out in 5 years instead of 15. That's when I made a decision that would haunt me for the rest of my life. I went to Frank Mitchell in jail. I told the guards I was his sister. They let me see him. Frank was surprised to see me. What do you want? I want to make a deal. What kind of deal? You plead guilty to all charges. You accept the maximum sentence. You never contact Thomas again, and in return, I'll make sure Thomas doesn't testify. I'll make sure he doesn't tell the court about all the other things you did to him." Frank's expression changed. "What other things?" "The things you did when he was 4, when he was 5, when he was 6. The things that are so bad if they came out in court, you wouldn't just get 15 years, you'd get life." Frank went pale. "He told you?" "He told me everything." "That little shit. I should have." "You should have what? Killed him? Is that what you were going to say?" Frank was quiet. "Here's what's going to happen," I continued. "You're going to plead guilty, you're going to accept 15 years, and you're going to sign away your parental rights. You're going to give up all legal claim to Thomas, and in return, I'll make sure the worst of what you did never comes out. And if I don't, then I'll make sure Thomas testifies. I'll make sure he tells the court everything, every single thing you did to him, and you'll spend the rest of your life in prison, probably in protective custody, because child abusers don't do well in general population." Frank stared at me for a long moment. Then he said, "Fine, I'll do it." "You'll sign the papers?" "Yes." "And you'll never contact Thomas again?" "Yes." "If you break this agreement, if you ever come near Thomas again, I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. I'll make sure your life is hell. Do you understand?" "I understand." Frank pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to 15 years. He signed away his parental rights. And Thomas never had to testify, never had to relive the worst moments of his life in front of a courtroom full of strangers. But I kept Frank's secret. I kept the secret of what he'd really done to Thomas, the sexual abuse, the torture, the things that were so horrific I couldn't even bring myself to write them down. I kept that secret to protect Thomas, to spare him from having to tell his story, to give him a chance at a normal life. But keeping that secret meant Frank got 15 years instead of life. It meant he'd eventually get out. It meant he'd be free. And I've lived with that guilt for 43 years. I finished telling Daniel the story. He's been silent the whole time, his face growing paler with each word. "So you made a deal with my grandfather," he says finally. "You let him get a lighter sentence to protect my father." "Yes." "And my father knew. He knew what you did?" "Apparently, though I don't know how. I never told him. I never told anyone." Dad was smart. He probably figured it out. He probably knew that Frank's sentence was too light for what he'd done. "I'm sorry, Daniel. I know this is a lot to process. Did Frank ever contact my father again after he got out of prison?" "I don't know. Thomas aged out of foster care when he turned 18. He left our house and I never saw him again. I tried to keep in touch, but he didn't want contact. I think being around me reminded him of everything he'd been through. Frank died 10 years ago. Heart attack. Dad didn't go to the funeral. He said he felt nothing when he heard Frank was dead. No relief, no sadness, just nothing. I'm sorry Thomas had to carry that burden. He carried a lot of burdens, but he also built a good life. He got married, he had me and my sister. He was a good father, a great father. He broke the cycle. I'm glad. That's all I ever wanted for him." Daniel hands me the envelope again. "You should read this. Dad's letter. He explains everything." With shaking hands, I open the envelope and begin to read. "Dear Dorothy, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone. It means Daniel found you and gave you this letter. It means it's finally time for you to know the truth. I've thought about you every day for 43 years, every single day. You were the only mother I ever really had, the only person who truly loved me. And I repaid you by disappearing, by cutting you out of my life, by never saying thank you. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry I was too broken to stay in touch. I'm sorry I let my trauma push away the one person who fought for me.
but I need you to know something. I need you to know why I left you. I left because I knew your secret. I knew about the deal you made with Frank. I knew you let him get a lighter sentence to protect me. I knew you kept his worst crimes hidden.
How did I know? Because I heard you. That day you visited Frank in jail, I followed you. I was 12 years old and I was terrified you were going to abandon me like everyone else, so I followed you to the jail, I hid outside the visiting room, and I heard everything. I heard you threaten Frank. I heard you make the deal. I heard you promise to keep his secrets if he stayed away from me. And I understood what you were doing. You were protecting me. You were sparing me from having to testify. You were giving me a chance at a normal life. But I also understood what it cost you. You had to live with the knowledge that Frank would get out someday. You had to live with the guilt of keeping his worst crimes hidden. You had to carry that burden for me. And I couldn't face you after that. I couldn't look you in the eye knowing what you'd sacrificed for me. I felt like I owed you a debt I could never repay. So I left. I aged out of foster care and I disappeared. I changed my name. I moved across the country. I built a new life. But I never forgot you. I never stopped thinking about you. I never stopped being grateful. You saved my life, Dorothy. Not just by taking me in, not just by loving me, but by making that impossible choice, by sacrificing your peace of mind to protect mine. I know you've probably spent the last 43 years feeling guilty, feeling like you made the wrong choice, feeling like you should have let me testify, feeling like you should have made sure Frank got life in prison. But you made the right choice. You protected me. You gave me a childhood. You gave me a chance to heal without having to relive my trauma in front of strangers. Because of you, I was able to move on. I was able to build a life. I was able to become a father. I was able to break the cycle of abuse. Frank got out of prison after 12 years. He tried to find me, but I'd changed my name. I'd moved. He never found me. He died 10 years ago. And when I heard, I felt nothing. He had no power over me anymore. He was just a man who'd hurt me a long time ago, a man who couldn't hurt me anymore. And that's because of you, because you protected me, because you loved me enough to make an impossible choice. So, thank you, Dorothy. Thank you for being my mother. Thank you for fighting for me. Thank you for sacrificing your peace of mind for mine. I forgive you for the deal you made. I forgive you for keeping Frank's secrets. I forgive you for everything you think you did wrong. Because you didn't do anything wrong. You did everything right. I love you. I've always loved you. And I'm sorry I never told you that when I had the chance. Your son, Thomas. P.S. I've left instructions in my will. Half of my estate is going to you. It's not much, about $200,000, but it's yours. Use it however you want. Travel, donate it, buy yourself something nice, whatever brings you joy. You've earned it. I'm crying so hard I can barely see the words. Daniel is crying too. He loved you so much, Daniel says. He talked about you all the time. He said you were the reason he was able to be a good father because you showed him what real love looked like. I had no idea. I thought he hated me. I thought he blamed me for what happened with Frank. He never blamed you. He only ever felt grateful. Why didn't he reach out? Why didn't he tell me this while he was alive? He was ashamed. He felt like he'd abandoned you. He felt like it was too late to reconnect. And then he got sick, and he realized he was running out of time. So he wrote the letter, and he made me promise to find you. I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad I got to know what happened to him, that he had a good life, that he was happy. He was happy. He had a wife who loved him, 2 kids who adored him, a successful career as a social worker.
He spent his life helping kids like him. He made a difference. He became a social worker? Yes, he said it was because of you, because you showed him that one person can change a child's life. He wanted to be that person for other kids. I'm overwhelmed. Thomas took the pain of his childhood and turned it into purpose. He helped other children. He broke the cycle of abuse. There's one more thing, Daniel says. Dad wanted me to tell you something. He wanted me to tell you that Frank's secrets died with him, that you don't have to carry that burden anymore, that you're free. Free? From the guilt, from the secret, from the weight of what you did. Dad said to tell you that you made the right choice, and that he's grateful, and that you should forgive yourself. Daniel stays for 3 hours. He tells me about Thomas's life, about Maria, his wife, about Sophie, his daughter, about his career, about the hundreds of children he helped over 30 years as a social worker. I'd like to meet them, Daniel says. My mom and my sister, they've heard so much about you. They'd love to meet the woman who saved Dad's life. I'd like that. Are you free next weekend? We could drive up, bring some photos, tell you more stories about Dad. I'd love that. Daniel stands to leave. At the door, he turns back. Thank you, Dorothy, for everything you did for my father, for the sacrifice you made, for the love you showed him. You gave him a life, and because of that, I have a life. My sister has a life. My kids have a life. You didn't just save one person, you saved generations. After he leaves, I sit in my living room for a long time holding Thomas's letter. I think about the choice I made 43 years ago, the deal with Frank, the secrets I kept. For 43 years, I've carried the guilt of that choice. I've wondered if I did the right thing. I've questioned whether protecting Thomas was worth letting Frank get a lighter sentence. But now I know. Thomas forgave me. Thomas understood. Thomas was grateful. And that's all I ever needed to hear. It's been a year since Daniel knocked on my door, a year since I learned what happened to Thomas, a year since I read his letter. In that year, my life has changed completely. I've become part of Thomas's family. I've met Maria, his widow. I've met Sophie, his daughter. I've met their grandchildren, my great-grandchildren in a way. We have dinner once a month. We talk on the phone every week. They've welcomed me into their lives with open arms. Maria told me that Thomas kept a photo of me in his wallet. For 43 years, he kept that photo, a reminder of the woman who saved him. He never forgot you, Maria said. He talked about you all the time. He said you were the reason he was able to be a good father because you showed him what real love looked like. I've also reconnected with some of the other foster children Robert and I raised. Daniel helped me track them down. We've had a reunion, 15 of the 23 children we fostered over the years. Some of them are doing well, some of them are still struggling, but all of them remember us. All of them are grateful. You gave me a safe place when I had nowhere else to go, one of them said. You saved my life. I never thought of myself as a hero. I was just a woman who opened her home to children who needed it. But to them, I was everything. Robert died 5 years ago. He never got to know what happened to Thomas. But I like to think he knows now. I like to think he's proud of what we did. I used the money Thomas left me to start a foundation, the Thomas Mitchell Foundation for Foster Children. It provides support for foster families, therapy for foster children, resources for kids aging out of the system. It's my way of honoring Thomas, of making sure his legacy lives on, of helping more children the way we helped him. 6 months ago, I received another letter. This one was from Sophie, Thomas's daughter.
Dorothy, I found something in Dad's things. Something I think you should see. Can I come visit? Sophie came to my house the following week. She brought a box. I was going through Dad's storage unit, she explained, and I found this. It's full of letters. Letters Dad wrote but never sent. Inside the box were hundreds of letters, all addressed to me, all written over the course of 43 years. Letters about his life, his struggles, his triumphs, his family, his career. Letters he wrote but never had the courage to send. He wrote to you every month, Sophie said, for 43 years. He never stopped thinking about you. He never stopped wanting to connect. He just didn't know how. I spent weeks reading those letters, watching Thomas grow up through his words, watching him heal, watching him become the man he was meant to be. In one letter, written when he was 25, he wrote, "Dear Dorothy, I got married today. Her name is Maria. She's wonderful, kind, patient, everything I never thought I deserved. I wish you could have been there. I wish I could have walked down the aisle and seen you in the audience, but I'm too much of a coward to reach out. I'm too afraid you'll reject me. So I'll just write this letter and put it in the box with all the others, and maybe someday I'll find the courage to send them. Love, Thomas." In another letter, written when he was 32, he wrote, "Dear Dorothy, I became a father today. Daniel was born at 3:47 a.m. He's perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, a full head of dark hair. When I held him, I made a promise. I promised I'd be the father to him that Frank never was to me. I promised I'd love him unconditionally. I promised I'd never hurt him. And you have to thank me for that, because you showed me what real parenting looks like. You showed me that love doesn't have to hurt. Thank you. Love, Thomas." In the last letter, written 2 weeks before he died, he wrote, "Dear Dorothy, I'm dying. Cancer, stage 4. The doctors say I have weeks, maybe days. And I'm not afraid. I've had a good life, a full life, a life I never thought I'd have. And it's all because of you. You saved me. You loved me. You showed me that I was worth saving. I'm sending Daniel to find you. I'm sending him with a letter. I'm finally going to tell you everything I should have told you 43 years ago. I love you, Dorothy. I've always loved you. Thank you for being my mother. Thank you for everything. Your son, Thomas." I'm standing in my living room, surrounded by Thomas's letters. 43 years of words he never sent. 43 years of love he never expressed. But I have them now, and I understand. Thomas never stopped loving me. He never stopped thinking about me. He just didn't know how to bridge the gap between us. And now, even though he's gone, we're connected again through Daniel, through Sophie, through Maria, through the foundation, through these letters. My doorbell rings. It's Daniel and his family. They're here for our monthly dinner. Daniel's brought his 2 children, Thomas's grandchildren, a boy named Robert after my late husband, and a girl named Dorothy after me. Little Dorothy runs up to me and hugs my legs. "Grandma Dorothy, I missed you." I pick her up. She's 5 years old, the same age Thomas was when Frank first started hurting him. But this little girl will never know that kind of pain. She'll grow up loved, protected, safe, because Thomas broke the cycle, and now his children are breaking it too. "Grandma Dorothy, will you tell me a story about my grandpa Thomas?" she asks. "Of course, sweetheart. What do you want to know?" "Was he brave?" I think about Thomas, about the 8-year-old boy who came to my house with nothing but a garbage bag, about the child who survived unspeakable abuse, about the man who turned his pain into purpose, about the father who loved his children unconditionally, about the social worker who saved hundreds of children. Yes, I say, he was the bravest person I ever knew. Was he little when he lived with you? So I tell her. I tell her about the day Thomas arrived, about how scared he was, about how he slowly learned to trust, about how he healed. I don't tell her about Frank. I don't tell her about the abuse. I don't tell her about the deal I made.
Those secrets died with Thomas, just like he wanted. Instead, I tell her about the good parts, about the day Thomas smiled for the first time, about the day he called me Mom by accident and then got embarrassed, about the day he graduated from high school and hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. "He sounds wonderful," little Dorothy says. He was. He really was. That night, after everyone leaves, I sit in my living room and think about family. Family isn't just about biology. It's not about blood or DNA or legal documents. Family is about showing up. It's about loving someone even when it's hard. It's about making impossible choices to protect the people you love. It's about sacrifice. Thomas wasn't my biological son, but he was my son in every way that mattered. I raised him, I loved him, I fought for him, I made a deal with the devil to protect him, and he loved me back. For 43 years, even when we weren't in contact, he loved me. He carried my photo in his wallet. He wrote me letters. He named his daughter after me. That's family. Robert and I fostered 23 children over the years. We couldn't save all of them. Some of them went back to abusive homes. Some of them ended up in jail. Some of them struggled with mental illness or addiction. But we saved some of them. We gave them a chance. We showed them what love looked like. And Thomas took that love and multiplied it. He became a social worker. He helped hundreds of children. He broke the cycle of abuse. He created a family built on love instead of pain. That's the legacy. That's what matters. The Thomas Mitchell Foundation has grown beyond anything I imagined. In the past year, we've helped 53 foster families. We've provided therapy for 87 foster children. We've given scholarships to 12 kids aging out of the system. Daniel runs the foundation now. He quit his job in finance to do it full time. Dad spent his life helping foster kids. I want to continue that work. I want to make sure his legacy lives on. Sophie volunteers at the foundation. She organizes fundraisers and awareness campaigns. She's passionate about foster care reform. Grandpa Thomas showed me that one person can make a difference. You made a difference in his life. He made a difference in hundreds of lives. Now I want to make a difference too. Maria serves on the board. She's a retired teacher, and she brings decades of experience working with at-risk children. "Thomas talked about you constantly," she told me once. "He said you were the reason he knew how to love, the reason he knew how to be a good father, the reason he knew how to help other children. You started something, Dorothy, something that's going to continue for generations." 3 months ago, I got another knock on my door, another stranger. This time, it was a woman in her 40s. She looked nervous. "Are you Dorothy Hayes?" "Yes, can I help you?" "My name is Jennifer Rodriguez. I was one of your foster children. I lived with you for 6 months when I was 14. That was 30 years ago." "Jennifer, of course I remember you. Come in." She came inside, looking around. The house looks the same, smaller than I remember, but the same. "What brings you here after all these years?" "I heard about the Thomas Mitchell Foundation. I read an article online about it. It mentioned that you started it, that you were a foster mother, and I realized I never thanked you." "Thanked me for what?" "For not giving up on me. I was horrible to you. I stole from you, I ran away, I said terrible things, but you never gave up. You kept trying. You kept loving me even when I made it impossible. You were a child who'd been through trauma. You were doing the best you could. I was a nightmare, but you treated me with kindness anyway, and that stayed with me. Even after I left your house, even after I aged out of the system, I remembered you. I remembered that someone had cared about me, that someone had seen me as more than just a problem." "What happened to you after you left us?" "I struggled for a long time. I got into drugs. I was homeless for a while. I hit rock bottom when I was 23. And then I remembered you. I remembered how you never gave up on me. And I thought, if she didn't give up on me, maybe I shouldn't give up on myself." "So you got clean?" "I got clean. I went back to school. I became a nurse. I got married. I have 3 kids now, and I'm a foster parent. I fostered 8 children in the past 5 years. I started crying. Jennifer, that's wonderful. I'm doing what you did. I'm giving kids a safe place. I'm showing them that someone cares. I'm not giving up on them even when they make it hard, because you didn't give up on me. I'm so proud of you. I want to volunteer at the foundation. I want to help. I want to give back. We'd love to have you. Jennifer now volunteers at the foundation 3 days a week. She mentors foster parents. She shares her story. She gives hope to children who think they're beyond saving.
I paid with 43 years of guilt, 43 years of wondering if I made the right choice, 43 years of carrying a secret that weighed on me every single day. But I'd do it again, in a heartbeat, because Thomas was worth it. The documentary is scheduled to premiere next month. It's called The Boy Who Became a Hero, the Thomas Mitchell story. I'm nervous about it, nervous about people judging the choice I made, nervous about the secret being exposed, nervous about Frank's crimes becoming public knowledge. But Daniel says Thomas would want the story told. He'd want people to understand the complexity of foster care, the impossible choices, the gray areas. Dad's story isn't just about abuse and trauma, Daniel said. It's about healing. It's about resilience. It's about the power of one person's love to change everything. That's the story we need to tell. The documentary premieres at a film festival in New York. Daniel and Sophie and Maria are there. Jennifer and the other former foster children are there. Families we've helped through the foundation are there. And I'm there, sitting in the front row, terrified of what I'm about to see. The lights dim. The film begins. It opens with Daniel talking about his father, about the man he was, the father he was, the social worker he was. Then it shifts to Thomas's childhood, to the abuse, to the foster homes, to the day he came to live with us. They've used photos from our time together, photos I didn't even know existed. Thomas as a child, smiling, Thomas at his high school graduation, Thomas on his 18th birthday, the day he aged out of foster care. Then the film reveals the secret, the deal I made with Frank, the choice I made to protect Thomas. I hold my breath, waiting for judgment, waiting for condemnation. But instead, the film shows the impact of that choice. It shows Thomas's life, his career, his family, the hundreds of children he helped. It shows interviews with some of those children, now adults. They talk about how Thomas saved them, how he gave them hope, how he showed them that their past didn't define their future. Thomas Mitchell understood trauma because he'd lived it, one of them says. He understood what it was like to feel broken, and he showed us that broken things can be put back together, that we could heal, that we could have good lives. The film ends with me reading Thomas's letter, the letter he wrote before he died, the letter where he forgave me, where he thanked me, where he told me I'd made the right choice. By the time the credits roll, everyone in the theater is crying. The lights come up. There's a Q&A session. People ask questions about foster care, about trauma, about the foundation. And then someone asks the question I've been dreading. Mrs. Hayes, do you think you made the right choice, letting Frank Mitchell get a lighter sentence? I stand up. I look at the audience, hundreds of people, all waiting for my answer. I made the choice I thought was best for Thomas. I protected him from having to relive his trauma in a courtroom. I gave him a chance to heal without having to be re-traumatized.
And yes, it meant Frank got 12 years instead of life, but Thomas got a life, a full, beautiful, meaningful life. He became a father, a husband, a social worker who helped hundreds of children. He broke the cycle of abuse. He created a legacy of love. That's what my choice gave him, and I'd make the same choice again. The audience applauds. Not everyone agrees with me, I can see it in some faces, but most people understand. Most people see the complexity, the impossible choice, the gray area. After the screening, dozens of people come up to me, foster parents, former foster children, social workers. They thank me, they share their stories, they tell me I'm an inspiration. But I don't feel like an inspiration. I feel like a woman who did what she had to do, who made an impossible choice, who loved a child enough to sacrifice her own peace of mind. That's not heroic. That's just love. 5 years after Daniel knocked on my door, the Thomas Mitchell Foundation has helped over 500 families. We've provided therapy for over 1,000 foster children. We've given scholarships to 73 kids aging out of the system. The documentary won several awards. It's been shown in schools and social work programs across the country. It sparked conversations about foster care reform, about trauma-informed care, about the complexity of protecting children. I'm 84 years old now. My health is declining. I know I don't have many years left. But I'm at peace because I know Thomas's legacy will continue. The foundation will continue. The work will continue. Daniel has expanded the foundation. They now offer training for foster parents, support groups for former foster children, advocacy for policy changes. Sophie has written a book about her father, about his life, about his work, about the impact one person can have. It's a bestseller. Jennifer has fostered 15 children now. 3 of them she's adopted. She's become a fierce advocate for foster care reform. And little Dorothy, Thomas's granddaughter, my namesake, has announced that she wants to become a social worker when she grows up, just like her grandfather. I want to help kids like Grandpa Thomas, she told me. I want to show them that they can have good lives, that they can be happy. The cycle continues. The legacy grows. The love multiplies. Last week, I received one final letter. It was from the prison where Frank Mitchell served his sentence. It was written by Frank shortly before he died. The prison had held on to it for 10 years, unsure whether to send it. Finally, they decided I should have it. I almost threw it away without reading it. I didn't want to hear from Frank. I didn't want his words in my head. But curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. Mrs. Hayes, I'm dying. Heart disease. The doctors say I have weeks. I'm writing this because I need to say something I should have said 30 years ago. Thank you. Thank you for making that deal with me. Thank you for keeping my worst crimes hidden. Thank you for sparing me from life in prison. I know you didn't do it for me. You did it for Thomas, but it benefited me anyway. I got 12 years instead of life. I got out when I was 52. I had 18 more years of freedom. I didn't use those years well. I drank, I drifted, I died alone in a crappy apartment with no one who cared about me. But I had those years, and I didn't deserve them. Thomas deserved better than me. He deserved a real father, someone who would love him and protect him and be proud of him. He got that in you. You were more of a parent to him than I ever was. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm just saying thank you, and I'm saying I'm sorry for everything I did to Thomas, for the pain I caused, for the damage I inflicted. I hope he had a good life. I hope he was happy. And I hope he forgot about me. Frank Mitchell. I read the letter 3 times. Then I burn it. Frank doesn't get the last word. He doesn't get to be part of this story anymore. Thomas had a good life. He was happy, and he didn't forget about Frank, but Frank didn't have power over him anymore. That's what matters. I'm sitting in my living room, the same living room where Thomas stood 43 years ago clutching a garbage bag, the same living room where Daniel stood 5 years ago thanking me for raising his father. My walls are covered with photos now, photos of Thomas, photos of Daniel and Sophie, photos of the grandchildren and great-grandchildren, photos of the hundreds of children the foundation has helped. This is my legacy, not the choice I made with Frank, not the secret I kept, but the love I gave, the children I helped, the lives I changed. My doorbell rings. It's Daniel and his family. They come every week now. They bring dinner. They tell me stories. They make sure I'm not alone. Little Dorothy runs in and hugs me. She's 10 now, the same age Thomas was when he finally started to heal. Grandma Dorothy, I wrote